Thanks for joining us back here at the Silverton High School gym. I'm Chris Warden.
My name's Mael Backhausen. Love to be here.
And we are being joined by our next guest here in the couch at the Hardrock 100. This is not a strange face to us. This is a very familiar one, especially if you've watched live streams. Hilary Yang. Hilary, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. Good to see both of you guys. Oh my God, it's a little surreal. This is a different side of the couch for me, it feels like.
Well, I'm glad you're sitting on a couch, Hilary, because last time I saw you, I don't know how many hours you sat on the tarmac at the track at the end of Western States covering that event, but it must be amazing to be able to put on a bib and run at a race like this after all the work you do behind the scenes at other events. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, the last few weeks have been a blur. I feel like we're all on that circuit of, Western States to Hardrock. It's not a lot of time in between. But yeah, when I was sitting on the track, I really was thinking to myself, man, this is not great. Like, I could just feel my whole body collapsing. Did not feel like an athlete that week at all, but had a lot of fun documenting everyone else's journeys. And yeah, now to be sitting at Hardrock and my only job is to run and eat, or walk and eat, as we might more accurately call it, it's cool. It actually feels kind of liberating in a lot of ways,
In between your appearances at Cocodona on the live stream and Western States being a part of that, have you been able to get your training in?
I mean, training has been difficult. Training has been, certainly a challenge to fit it all in. It's like, very. I've been traveling a lot, as you know, right? And seeing you guys a lot. So then I come home from these trips and I try to fit in this training block, and I'll be like, I have 48 hours and I'm going to run for 15 of them, and then I'm going to get on a plane again. And so I feel like for the last few months, I've just had to be really creative and flexible with my training.
So Hill, tell us a little bit about your journey here. When did you first have any desire to do such a tough and difficult event?
Well, I ran my first 100-miler. Actually, it was 120 miles for my first 100-miler in 2016, Fat Dog up in Canada. And I'd heard about Hardrock, and obviously it's like this hallowed race, especially from Canada. Sort of we're the little cousin looking down at all these, big U.S. races. And so I put in my name in the lottery, and I didn't actually get to come down to Hardrock until 2021. But I did a couple of the qualifiers, and I just sort of knew I loved these mountainous races, and that was where I fell in love with trail running, was big mountains and big hiking days, really. I wasn't actually a very good runner. I think I've only become a better runner when I moved down to California. You actually have to run more. But yeah, 2016, and I've just been chipping away at it, and that's almost a decade ago, guys. I was a spring chicken, and now I don't know, my knees hurt more.
So, as you mentioned, you've been trying to get into this race for quite some time. I actually met you here for the first time, I believe, at
That's
Coffee
right.
Bear one morning. So you are no stranger to Silverton and to Hardrock itself. Discuss your relationship with the race to this point, like what you've done to be involved with it prior to now towing the line here in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, 2021 was the first year I actually got to come down. It was after COVID. And that year I actually did the design for the finisher awards and posters and stuff. And so I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to come down and see it and be part of it. So I came down and actually got cornered by Mike Wardian in the Silverton grocery store. And he's like, Hilary, I need a pacer for the last 18 miles. Can you jump in and pace me? And I was like, dude, I haven't even been on the course before. I don't know what I'm doing out here. And I just sort of said yes and jumped in. And I ended up having a great time with Wardian's crew and getting the whole experience of Hardrock and getting to just bum around the course. And then, going up Grant Swamp Pass in a lightning storm with Wardian. And I was like, what is happening? What is this race, And that was sort of my intro. And that was also the year that Billy and I connected and sort of had our love story unfold out at Hardrock. And, that year changed my life in a lot of ways, which was sort of wild. And then, it just became the tradition that we came back. We came back the following year. And the following year was where we found our dog, Charlie Salami, on the side of the road as we were driving on our way to Hard Rock, and we showed up with this 5-month-old mangy stray dog, and then we pawned him off on everyone in town, and we're like, here, have a dog while we go run in the mountains. And just like all these memories with this race. And 23, I paced Wardian again, same section the last 18 miles, so I feel like I know the last 18 miles in this direction really well. And yeah, I mean, this race is special. And I think what it is like you come out here early, right? Because of the altitude. And that's unique. There's not a lot of races where people are out here like 2-3 weeks in advance, camping, hanging out, just being up in altitude and soaking in the mountains. And that to me feels so special. Like we're at these huge production races. Western States is such a huge race now. UTMB, Cocodona, like you come out to Hard Rock and it's sort of like a family event. You know, like it's where everyone comes to decompress and just like, hey, like, how are you? Like, you know, we're all out in the mountains camping together. We've been camping with Zach Miller for the last week up in Cunningham Gulch, and he like makes us breakfast every morning. Like, it's just sort of a family thing. So that's like, yeah, I think I've just always had this like place in my heart for Hard Rock as this like true mountain experience. Long-winded, sorry.
No, not at all. That's great.
No, everybody's got their story.
So what is it that you want to, like, how do you want to be remembered in this race? Like, what do you want to go out there and do and leave out there on the trails on the weekend?
I mean, I think for me, at this point in my life, like running ultras for like 12, 13 years now, this race feels like a celebration of this big chapter of my life. And like ultra running has transformed who I am as a human, you know? And I can look at all these races and these hard qualifiers. Like none of these races you do to qualify for Hard Rock are easy. So they're all their own experiences. And I've had good races and I've had horrible races. And I've had races that I basically just crawled to the finish line to get that qualifier. And I think to be able to step back and like look at that like history and be like, wow, like this sort of represents a lot of learning and a lot of like just like life that has happened in that time. And to be out here and to have like an amazing crew of people that have flown and driven and given up their time to pace me, to crew me, to be out there, it just feels like it's truly a village. And I know we say that, but I think this race in particular, it is a village of people that get you around that course.
So in saying all of that, Hilary, what is the advice that you would give yourself that you have learned? So yeah, the advice that you would give yourself the 12 years ago, Hilary, like when first stepping onto this scene, because there's probably a lot of people that are going through that process right now with this sport doing what it's doing, being able to do things like bring Hard Rock to the world via live stream. Like there is someone out there that is very similar to you as you were 12 years ago. Like what have you learned and what advice would you pass on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I mean, I'm grateful that I didn't get into this race earlier. Not gonna lie, I would have liked to get in a couple years ago, but I have learned a lot over this time. And I would say to enjoy that whole process of learning. And these races are an incredible pinnacle, but you can't discount all the work that goes into getting here, and that work is important. And I think being part of the community, pacing, crewing, volunteering, being out here gives me a totally different perspective on this race, running it now, than it would if I just like rocked up here and being like, hey, like, you know, first try, what's up? And I think, you know, it's cool for people that get that opportunity, but for those of us who have gone through the whole lottery process, it's not a bad thing. It's just like embrace it as part of the sort of like, this is an experience I'd love to have, but there's so many other ways to be part of Hard Rock or part of Western States or to contribute to the sport and to feel like you have a meaningful connection with these races. And that's not wasted time, you know? And then when you get the chance, it's like just that much sweeter.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the things that is really impressive about your journey is that you acknowledge the fact that while it has been a hard time getting into this race, it's taken you many years, you seem to have relished the journey along the way and all the races you've run and all the connections you've made. You've also, from my understanding, made, you know, your life has changed along the way as well in terms of like your personal and professional lives. I mean, you know, this sport has given you quite a bit. You know, like for those who maybe are curious, like what was it like for you to like, I guess, fully transition into a situation where this sport is your life from like, you know, maybe coming in from other fields?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like I never imagined when I ran my first 50K that this would be my whole career and I'd be married to someone who's also got this as his whole career and it would be our life like this. But I think what I realized along the way was I got so much out of it and I wanted to share stories that like helped other people see that. And so as I got into photography, which was sort of my first entry into the creative side of the sport, I realized that there was like no other women that were doing it. It was mostly men. And it's not like women couldn't, it's just that it's physical. And I mean, if you look at ultra running, it's like already male dominant. And so it makes sense that there's like less women on the creative side. So it sort of became this mission of mine along the way to like bring more women into the sport, but also like more women telling stories that would bring other women into the sport. And like I had a corporate job when I first got into ultra running, like 9 to 5 government job. Like I would squeeze all my running into my vacation time, but it was not my full-time job. And I think ultra running and what I learned about myself as a human was what gave me the confidence to quit my job and to be like, I can do this full time. I can create a business for myself, which is scary, right? And that's been its own journey. But I think, yeah, all these things have sort of come together. And then as I've gone through my career, it's been more about like, well, I'm interested in this part, or I want to get into more filmmaking and I want to tell stories there, or I want to produce media and bring other people in and almost mentor other people. And I just am sort of curious. I think that's sort of my guiding thing right now is just like I enjoy learning and I never want to stop. I don't want to be bored. And the sport is growing. So it's sort of being like I'm on this trajectory at the same time as the sport is also growing and there's so much excitement and momentum. And you know, the Here for the Women's race that I co-founded last year with Corinne Malcolm was a total accident. It was really just born out of this idea of like, hey, we want to see more women out here. We want to be loud and proud and like make sure that we're focusing on the women's race. And that's just taken on a life of its own, which is like from a like career perspective, I'm really proud of it because it's like this is something that's bigger than me and it's about bringing in more women and that's almost like a legacy that we can leave for the next generation. And that's really really cool. So I just feel very blessed to be in the sport now and like, you know, over a decade in the sport, I've seen it grow a lot. You guys too, right? Like it's changed a lot in the last 10 years,
Yes.
right? And it's easy to sort of be like, "Oh, I miss the way it was" or something, but I think it's exciting and I think the more people that we can bring into the sport, the better. But also our job is to steward new people into the sport in a way that helps them understand and appreciate what we love about the sport. So we don't lose the heart and soul of trail running, right? Like we don't want to become this big sort of soulless giant thing. And so like that's our job is to sort of be like, hey, let me bring you along, show you how it's done.
Okay, so there is a young woman very similar to yourself 12 years ago who wants to get into the creative side of things. What advice would you give to that person?
I mean, I think I'm seeing more and more women do it, which is just don't be afraid to show up and sort of just ask questions and ask people, "Hey, can I shadow you? Can I like how can I get involved? Volunteer, come help out with the live broadcasts for a lot of these races." I think that's a great way to get involved. I think it's just sort of it's always scary to ask for help and to sort of be like, "Hey, I'm new here." But you'll find like I don't know, we're all a pretty friendly bunch. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunities for people to just sort of like come in and mentor you and to hopefully help you feel like you have your place. And I've seen like a few women from the last couple years that started out very much just like I'm just going to show up and shoot this race without a pass, without anything, and just sort of get experience. And now they're getting hired by brands and they're getting opportunities. And so if you want it, it's like there's nothing stopping you. Just come out and be part of the community and sort of like grow from there. You know, and I look back on the photos I took when I first started and I'm like, "Oh my god." You know, like it's there's always a learning trajectory. Like you're never going to look back and be like, "Oh wow, I'm so proud of everything I did at the beginning of my career." But that's not the point. The point is that you like you're passionate, you love it, that comes through. If there's an honesty to what you're doing, like that'll show through. And then we're always evolving, right?
You've talked about here for the women's race, you and Corinne Malcolm, the efforts that you've done, and obviously, like if you go to any of these big races, it's obvious, like the movement is big and it's getting bigger, and the excitement. I went up to Corinne to ask if she had any more T-shirts because a friend of mine was like texting me asking about it. Nope, nothing. Like she's like, we'll have another printing of the shirts, so like love seeing that. Hard Rock is, along with High Lonesome, a couple of the races that have been kind of on the forefront of trying to encourage and expand women's participation. Um, Hard Rock's policy is to match up the lottery with the slots with the lottery in terms of women entrants. Um, what do you think it can be done to even further expand the women's accessibility to this race? Because what we've seen over the last 3 years, since the policy has changed, women have been kicking butt in this race. Like, 2023, a 93% finisher rate, 27 out of 29. That's outstanding. So we need to see more women in this race. What do you think can be done to even further improve those numbers?
I think that's sort of the question that we're all asking right now. And I think races like Hard Rock are leading the charge. Like I know Megan Hicks, as the president of the board, has been such an advocate for the pregnancy deferral policy. That's huge. As a woman in my mid 30s, like wherever I am in my life with sort of that journey, knowing that there's that opportunity there, it feels like that's really important. I mean, we have Stephanie Case running this year, who's an example of someone that's been able to take advantage of that and then come back to the sport, which I think is incredible. And yeah, I think really it's just hard because there are less women that run these longer races. And that's so multifactorial, whether it is because of the season of life we're in, because of the resources women have, or the fact that we feel like it's harder to run on our own, or maybe, or like all these things that go into like why it's harder for women to do 100-mile races, especially. But I think the more that the race itself is like, hey, we want you here. What can we do to support you? Hard Rock offering childcare all week leading up to the race so that women are here, that they can get out and be in the mountains or they can participate in all the events. Like, that stuff really makes a difference. And I think, honestly, it comes down to like the next generation, right? Like, I think we've removed a lot of the barriers to entry, but now it's our opportunity to look to the next generation and be like, how do we bring you in? How do we make this more inclusive? How do we get more people from all different backgrounds to even know about ultra running? Like, I didn't know it was a thing until I was like 25 years old, and like, how cool would it be if the next generation is like 10 and they're getting these opportunities, or they're seeing their parents or people they know doing the stuff and that makes them want to do it. Like, that's, I think, what we can continue to do to make the sport just to bring more women in and more people in general.
So Hill, tell us a little bit about your crew on the weekend. How do you select a crew for Hard Rock? Because as you said, you got brought into being a crew member and a pacer by walking into the local grocery shop, which is like...
I was the last resort, basically.
No. I think it's just like, Wardian obviously knew who you were and like was able to identify the right person in the right aisle of the supermarket that day.
I'll tell you what, I was the only pacer of his 4 pacers that did not get dropped that year.
There we go.
That was a claim to fame. I was like, I'm going to hang on if it kills me.
That's so good.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think selecting the right people is important, and it's an interesting race. I definitely had a lot of people reach out and be like, hey, like, I'm so excited. How can I help? And I think that's amazing, like, because there's so many races you go to where trying to find 1 or 2 people to help you is like a challenge. And so the fact that there's so many people that want to help at Hard Rock, you almost can be choosy, is sort of like, oh, okay. And yeah, for me, I just sort of had a clear idea of like who would be a good crew. And it's not Billy. My husband, Billy, is not on my crew. But also I just like know his strengths, and he's not as good with the organization and the sort of like planning part. So my friends Kevin and Natalie are sort of my co-crew chiefs, and I mean the spreadsheets that they've sent me and the pace charts, and they are so dialed, and that's exactly what I knew I needed. It's just people that were like, we got this, we know the plan, don't even think about it. You're gonna show up here, we're gonna put food in your hands, and out you go, and like, having that. And then I've got 4 pacers. My friend Sana, who ran it last year and finished, she's doing Animus to Hilary. And then my friend Kevin, who's also my crew chief, is doing Kroger's, so Hilary to Telluride. My friend Megan, who drove down from British Columbia just for this, is doing Telluride to Chapman over Oscars. And then Emily Hoggood, who's a really good friend of mine, is taking me from Chapman Gulch to the finish. And Emily paced me at IMTF a couple years ago, which was my last qualifier for the race. And so, yeah, she drove all the way out here after Western States after her race out there, and she's looking good. And so that's, yeah, it's a cool crew. And then Billy is going to be filming me and out on course, and we're making a little documentary about my race experience. So he'll be all over the place, but he doesn't have to worry about all the things like shoving food down my face. All the other parts that go into this race.
Well, you definitely have, from the sound of things, a very experienced crew. Those that I know, I'm impressed by. Those that I don't, I'm sure I trust your judgment on that. So for them to have walked away from this weekend and say, Hilary had a good weekend, what has to happen for you? Like, how does the race have to go in order for you to call it a success?
I have to finish.
Any goals, like more specific than that, or
I
just?
do, yeah, no, I do have like an A goal. It's honestly hard with this race. It feels like throwing darts at a wall because every 100 I've run has been such a different experience, and you cannot underestimate the altitude. The hardest 100 I've ever done was High Lonesome 100, and I just fell apart. Like, I probably consumed 350 calories that entire race. And so that fear is in my head a little bit, I think. And so it's hard to set a goal, but I'm aiming for somewhere in the like 34 to 35 hour range if I was to put a dart in the wall. And that feels like a good goal. Would love it if I'm faster, but if I'm slower, it's okay too. I think more than anything with this race, I feel very intentional about wanting to finish. And so I'm going to start out conservatively and probably get more conservative as I go from there, you know. No, not necessarily getting faster, but I am really going to respect this race and this course. And if anything, I'd like to finish feeling stronger rather than have everything go downhill because I went out too hard. Yeah, so I think that's sort of my goal for the day. But if I finish, everyone's going to feel like they did their job, I did my job, and I've sort of committed to my crew that I'll finish unless there's like a physical reason why I can't. But I'm going to do my best to just sort of work through whatever comes up, you know? I want to get out of that Nevers pool, man. I've been in that Nevers pool for a long time.
Amazing. Hey, Hilary, can you just tell us, like, the moment you found out you were in Hard Rock? How did that go down?
I was actually at home. Billy was at the Western States Lottery, and of course, the two lotteries happened to happen at the same time. And so he's in the back corner refreshing the Hardrock Lottery, and him and Corinne Malcolm freaked out when my name appeared. And it was sort of fun. I was actually out for a hike with my sister, and I remember saying, well, I haven't gotten in for the last like 8 years, so I'm like done holding my breath. And if I get in, I'm gonna know because my phone's gonna blow up. And my phone just went nuts, and it was really fun. So it was actually a cool way to find out, and it was just like, wait, what? Like, yeah, it felt very surreal after all this time. But yeah, just sort of put me on a wild ride because this year has been probably the busiest of my professional career with some really fun projects, and coincided with having to fit in this training, like we were saying before, Chris, and that has felt like a huge challenge to fit it in. And I'm really proud of myself. I cranked out like 6 70-mile weeks in a row with like crazy travel and getting up at 3 a.m. and just like I don't know. I feel like for the first time in a long time, no one was making me do any of it. I feel like I was very motivated by myself. I didn't have a coach. I just trained kind of by heart, by what I knew I needed. But it's a cool experience to sort of feel like you want to do it. Like, nobody's holding my feet to the fire on this. Like, I'm training because I know I want to have the best race I can have, and I put everything into it, even though it was messy and all over the place. And Western States Training Camp is not the most ideal hard rock training, but it was what I could do, and just sort of I did what I could. Like, yeah.
Well, the thing about training camp is that it's a great resource because you have so many people there that have run this race so many times. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. There is, even though they couldn't be more different in terms of races, there's a lot of overlap in those pools. So, what was I gonna? There was one other question that I had. Oh, when you get done, if you get done in 34, 35 hours, you have to come back and tell us how it went. And is there any bit of like maybe FOMO of being on our side of the desk, or are you like, nah, I'm good with this?
Honestly, for this race, no. I mean, yes, in a sense. I love being out there and capturing people's stories. I think it's cool to like know that Billy's going to be out there, and I trust him to capture it. And we have a cool story we want to tell around my whole journey, my whole like ultra running journey, really. That'll be really neat. My friend Sarah is also out here photographing the race for me. So I'm really just sort of like, I trust these people to help capture it. I told Sarah to take photos of all my crew and all the times I don't see everybody so that when the race is done, I can see what happened, you know? Like, that's my FOMO, is like being out on course and not getting to hang with my crew and not getting to like have those experiences. Like, it's sort of hard to bomb through an aid station in 5 minutes, right? Like, I want to hang.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, I feel so lucky, and I'm still pinching myself that I'm on the other side of this. So I'm just going to soak it all in.
Well, you earned it.
Thank
You
you.
absolutely earned it.
Thank you.
Mael, anything else you wanted to close with?
No, absolutely. Like, yeah, you've earned it. So just do us a favor and just go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I plan to. It's a long, hard walk.
Well, Hilary Yang, thank you very much for joining us. We can't wait to follow your journey out there, and we'll see you maybe Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Hopefully. Here's hoping. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.